Let's start with two poems. One was written by a human poet, and the other by a computer algorithm. Can you guess which is which? Which one feels more authentic? Which one is deeper? You can pause the video and think about it. So, the poem on the left was written by the classical American poet Emily Dickinson. The poem on the right is a GPT-5 creation that I asked to write something in her style. Could you guess it right? A similar study was conducted on a much bigger scale with 1,600 participants in 2024. Researchers led by Brian Porter conducted a study titled AI-Generated Poetry is Indistinguishable from Human-Written Poetry and is rated more favourably. Participants were shown a mix of poems written by humans and large language models. They were asked to classify them and to rate their quality. As you could have concluded from the title, people could not reliably tell them apart. And, on average, the AI poems were even rated slightly higher. And that was in 2024. As you know, since then, large language models have improved dramatically. Similar experiments have been conducted with visual art and music. For instance, a 2025 survey conducted by Deezer and Ipsos with 9,000 participants found that 97% of listeners were unable to distinguish AI-generated tracks from human-made ones in blind listening tests. Again and again, the results converge. When the origin is hidden, we struggle to distinguish human-made from AI-generated works, but once the label AI is revealed, our evaluations drop as we exhibit a bias against AI-created art. It's almost as if we are offended, as if something that once felt exclusively human, creativity, symbolism, emotional expression, is being invaded. And perhaps we fear something even more unsettling, that we might be beaten at our own game. In response, a common objection appears. AI doesn't create anything new. But does anyone? Every artist is shaped by influences, by style, by imitation, by recombination. And even if we assume that AI can only replicate existing human achievements without creating anything entirely new, there are still striking inconsistencies in how we evaluate art. If an AI writes a poem indistinguishable from Dickinson, is it suddenly worthless because of its origin? But what if the exact same poem was discovered in a forgotten archive? Dusty, yellowed, and signed with a centuries-old date. Would its artistic value suddenly increase? If nothing in the text changed, only the story of its origin, what exactly are we valuing? And how should we understand those moments when an artist later admits that a work was, at least in part, deliberate nonsense? Take the Beatles' song I Am the Walrus. John Lennon intentionally filled it with absurd imagery to confuse and mock overzealous interpretation. Yet fans immediately began dissecting it, searching for hidden symbolism and profound meaning. Were they wrong to find it? If you find beauty in something, or deeper meaning, if you feel something, does its origin change your experience? The philosopher Roland Barthes addressed this in his 1967 essay, The Death of the Author. He argued that meaning does not belong to the creator, but it belongs to the reader. Once a work is created, it separates from its maker. The author's intention no longer controls it. Meaning is produced in the act of interpretation, and it lives in us. If meaning is created in the encounter, in the mind of the reader, the listener, the viewer, then the biological status of the creator seems strangely irrelevant. Barthes was already challenging the authority of intention. AI simply extends the question. If a thought is polished with a large language model, does it stop being mine? Why does it matter whether it took me 3 hours to prepare an illustration for this video, or only 15 seconds? What difference does it make whether you're hearing this through a synthetic voice generated in 11 labs or through my real human voice?
If the meaning of these words remains untouched.